Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Vaccine Equity Coalition call that happens monthly. Today, we are going to talk about the midterm report that we sent to our initial funders, twilio.org and PagerDuty, and then talk about the second round of funding, which that will unlock, some potential new funding opportunities that are coming our way. And then we're going to open it up to the group about an open forum of where do we go from here. Jamal, if you could keep letting people in, please, because I know the waiting room is still there. So I'm going to try to run through the updates as quickly as possible, show you some pause for questions if there are any on those so we can get to the open forum, because that really is about the mission and what the future for this coalition looks like. So first, let's start with the midterm report that was sent 2 weeks ago. Thank you to everyone who helped, well, for all the weekly reports. We had amazing results. This is what part of the report looks like. We have far surpassed. We expected when we first started, we'd reach 250,000 immigrants. We are now close to and feasible by end of year reaching 1 million. And the vaccine numbers themselves too are very impressive. And like, especially from twilio.org's perspective, and we're talking with them later today to talk about the timeline of the second half of the funding. One of the other alliances they funded is Gavi, right? Gavi is an international $13 billion organization. So the fact that we as the small and mighty are working alongside them is really impressive and be able to show this. So thank you to everyone on that. We did feature 4 organizations in the actual report itself. We do have a final report due in 8 months' time. I'd love to feature 4 new organizations. Those organizations are really good about sending stories. We do reach out on stories of vaccine drives that are being done. We'd love to feature 4 different ones of the coalition on the next and final report. So if you have interesting things that you're doing, please just let us know. Just send a quick email to Jamal. And second thing that was also in the impact report was the survey. So many of you in November and December texted, did the survey on your pop-up vaccinations, farmers markets. It is very impressive. We got about close to, I think it was 440 responses across different organizations. And after repeated interactions with this coalition, 93% thought the vaccine was safe. 99% thought the vaccine was safe, and then 93% got vaccinated. Only 10% felt safe being unvaccinated. And at a high level, that means indisputably, now with evidence, the work we're doing really, really matters. If anybody wants access to the full survey, Jamal will put the link here. Please make a copy. You can put your logo. Feel free to use this for your own fundraising or advocacy efforts or whatever you'd like. You feel free to just take a copy of this. Jamal will put it in the chat. It's an open link. Please don't write over the existing one. We still may share it, but please do share it and look into it, because it's essentially, it shows that we are very effective at what we're doing. And now we have evidence to back that up, which of course funders and supporters love to see. Equally for the vaccine impact report, Jamal, if you can put that link in there. If you'd like access to this, it's as white labeled as possible, which means that anyone is welcome to use it or any part of it. Feel free to make a copy. You can share it with any of your supporters or your funders. And thank you again for everything that you do that made this possible. In short, we're good at what we do. We collectively, everyone on this call and every member of the Vaccine Coalition, and it's what will lead to the second half of funding and potential new funding, which I'll talk about next. But any questions on the impact report or survey? All right, if you'd like your own copies, the links are now in the chat. Please make a copy of the Google Doc or Google Slide. Feel free to share it. Feel free to use it however you'd like. And just to be clear, no more surveys are required. I did get an email about that from, I think it was from East Bay earlier this week. That survey is done, it's complete. The results strongly speak for themselves. We will do another survey this year. We're not sure if anyone has any ideas of what we'd like to know from this community or our communities that we serve. Please let us know. We are still thinking about another survey. Probably won't be done until the spring. So with impact comes the...
Mark,
Go ahead, Chancy. Yes.
Oh, this is Chancy. I just want to congratulate everyone for just an amazing job, and thank you, Mobile Pathway, for putting together that amazing report. It was really well done. I really appreciate all your work too. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I purposely made that one visual because we do want, you share it with funders, you want them to share it around. So I spent a good evening trying to make that one as visually appealing as possible, so it's shared. But thank you, Chancey. Thank you to everyone. In kind, once you have something nice and flashy, you can share it, and that could lead to new funding opportunities. So there is one very good one in the pipe. There are two in the pipeline right now, one that's looking quite strong for California organizations and another one that could be coalition wide. So a few of you got emails in the past week. And the first thing that we wanted to talk about and just make sure we're aligned is, what's the rationale? What's the sense of urgency? Because our biggest concern when we walked into this meeting 2 days ago was hospitalizations are going down, vaccinations are going up, cases are going down. What does that mean for the importance of our work? And the frame, a few of us met, thank you to Andrea from Clean Car Wash, Lisa from East Bay Sanctuary, a few emailed their thoughts. And the frame that we came up with is, safeguards are going down, which means risk of infections are going up, and it's the vulnerable that are going to be caught in the middle. And what we shared, and anybody is welcome to this information, I'm happy to share it as well. We compiled a bunch of data. It was a very clear case, worked very well with this funder in particular, saying that in California, these are mostly California data, but it's applicable across the United States. This was a California-based funder. The populations we serve are still disproportionately under-vaccinated. In California, only 1 in 3 of the Latinx neighbors are boosted. They're behind other groups. So as our safeguards go down, we have less indoor mask mandates, we have less masking in schools, and we're opening back up because spring is coming. It's going to put the vulnerable at risk. Andrea, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Andrea shared this with me. I didn't know if other coalition members saw this. I'm going to have you speak to it just really quickly. But this was very powerful during our call. And so Andrea was on this call when we were brainstorming this framing. She showed this to me, which I thought was just super eye-opening. It's a canvassing tool that shows areas of low vaccinations. Anything you see here in red is 50% or less vaccinated, which Clean uses for their canvassing and informing efforts. Andrea, can you speak to this and potentially how other members could get access to this information?
Yeah, thanks, Bart. So we actually have access to this map or tool. It's on a Court Hub account. I believe some of the organizations that are part of our coalition are also a part of this. It's known as the ccij or CWAP. It's being led by the Labor Workforce Development Agency. And so, like Bart mentioned, this tool here really just shows the areas where communities are still lagging behind on either getting vaccinated. I don't remember very well, but there's also a tool that can actually show you the percentage or the rate of the vaccines. And so, cases, people that are testing positive for COVID-19. So I was sharing with Bart that unfortunately, I know that the account access or the access to this information is limited to the organizations that are a part of the program. But we'd be more than happy to get on a call with any organization that doesn't already have access to it, to go over some of the areas that maybe are around the communities that you serve.
So thank you for offering that. Andrea, if you can put your email in there, if anybody would like just a quick time, please be mindful that of everyone's time. By a show of hands, if you can just, would anyone want access to this that currently does not? Because we would be happy to reach out. And I actually took a quick look, Andrea, this morning to see if we could apply for more logins. I don't have access. No one, I don't know if anybody else does. But is there anyone that'd be interested for us to just reach out on the behalf of the coalition and see if more people get access to this information?
Bart, I'll be interested to see it. We do have our local health department shares the Napa County map with us, and it goes by census tracts. So we have that information, but I'll be curious to see it from this other perspective.
Okay. And I see another hand. I think that's enough. That essentially it's worth, Jamal, if you can take a note, I'll go ahead and reach out and just see if we can get access or how that could get the ball rolling. Because essentially the link is there at the bottom of this slide, which will take you to a login page that you can't get past. So until then, Indira, feel free to reach out to Andrea. Please be mindful of everyone's time. But I'll do the best we can to reach out and see if we can get more information. And to be clear, Andrea, this is only California-based data, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. But and to a good point that Indira made, and I know Thai CDC working with local public health departments, there's lots of different data. The only reason I really like this tool when Andrea showed it to me is you can zoom in really quickly on the neighborhoods, and there's lots of toggles you can add to it. So the ability to really quickly define what neighborhoods may need more information and hopefully pop-up vaccinations was really easy to find with this tool in particular. So before we go roundtable, any just quick updates then on the additional, so we showed that to the funder. It looked really good. There's two challenges. One challenge is they are a family foundation that traditionally only supports Bay Area Peninsula, which makes it, I sent a budget for Bay Area Peninsula organizations. I also sent one California-wide. They will definitely not support, unfortunately, some of you that are in outside of California's borders. That's going to be beyond their mandate. They felt because of it being the vaccine, and let's be honest, the virus, it's not checking any passports or knows any borders. They were inclined to be able to fund our SoCal neighbors. We don't know where that stands. Overall, we feel really good about Bay Area Peninsula, hopefully be able to include California-wide. I also had another discussion for the entire coalition, which is going to open up this forum of where do we go now? So the history of this coalition is it was born out of CIRF, the California Immigrant Resilience Fund. A lot of organizations here were a member of that. We knew that the vaccine were impacting all of our immigrant communities. We then received funding from Twilio.org and PagerDuty that allowed other organizations such as South Dakota Voices for Peace or IMSchools beyond California to be able to take part. That had a 1-year mission, so till the end of August. At that point, an additional funder for California organizations funded us, most of the organization, only California-based through end of this year. And now organizations still have capacity and budget to fund a coalition like this one. But what does that look like? And this is just an open question to the group. What are your efforts in vaccine equity looking like through this year and into next?
I guess I could start. This is Chancy in Los Angeles from the Thai Community Development Center. As you know, we continue to have our standing vaccine clinics twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays at our farmers market. We still have plans to just continue because, as you know, that the CDC guidelines get updated all the time. And eventually, even though this will be actually postponed, eventually it's going to be a guideline allowing, 6 months old and over to get vaccinated. And they said that it was going to probably be approved by March or so, but it looks like, yeah, that's going to be pushed back. But eventually it'll come to that, and we need to prepare our community for that in case there's hesitancy. So we will continue, and then we are still continuing to do our mobile vaccine clinics. In fact, we have 2 more planned for 2 Thai restaurants where we'll be on site to do boosters. But now we're also kind of pivoting to do testing. While we've been passing out test kits and test boxes, we are now going to start regular test clinics, PCR test clinic, once a week, every week, because it looks like now folks are, who are boosted are in need of testing because, now they're coming in contact with more people at work or socially or what have you, and need to be regularly tested.
And would you venture to say you'd be continuing those efforts through this year?
Yes.
Okay. 2 notes, and then I'd love to hear from others, is in the course of that research, as we were preparing for these funding presentations, there is some anecdotal evidence, but it's not fully clear that children of immigrants are disproportionately under-vaccinated. There's not a lot of states that report on that. California does not for some reason. There's other states, Connecticut and Michigan. So there is a strong case to be made about pediatric vaccinations and this coalition's ability to impact that space, because it is anecdotally known that immigrant children are less likely to be vaccinated than other groups. There's not a lot of data you can find to support that claim. So I definitely think that's a great reason to continue on. And then one other last note, a lot of people are preparing for testing kits, PPE as part of their budgets. If these things with these new funders look good, we will definitely rally for that. Gabby, I saw your hand went up.
Yes, hi everyone, this is Gabby here from the Long Beach Immigrant Rights Coalition. Yes, to your point, Bart, we've been having Facebook Live videos with doctors that specifically talk about the importance of vaccinating children. So at least until June, until the next few months, we're going to continue to do informational videos to make things accessible to community members regarding vaccines, but also testing, and also again the importance of getting their kids vaccinated. And through our programming, we're also going to be providing PPE to folks. So we are getting masks and hand sanitizers, and we have a mutual aid program on a biweekly basis where we're going to be distributing that to immigrant families up until June. That's kind of what we have planned. We're going to continue to do TikTok videos as well to reach the younger population. So that's one thing that we've seen as well, that there's young adults that are not getting vaccinated, and we're getting through them to other channels like TikTok and trying to be creative in what we put out there. So I think we're going to continue. Our communities are still struggling with making decisions on whether they should be vaccinated or not. So we'll be continuing to do that, as well as providing support for community members. So there's still support that is needed when they want to make appointments or they want to go into sites to get vaccinated or get tested. So we'll be providing technical assistance to folks as well. And our timeline is from now until June. If there is more funding, we will be considering continuing it for the rest of the year.
Great, thank you. Edwin?
Thanks, Bart. Also, major shout out to Gabby and LBRC. I love y'all's work. So just this is Edwin, by the way, he, him, el with CCIJ. Our project is a little different because we are working with folks inside immigration detention centers, specifically Golden State Annex, the Mesa Verde Detention Facility. Both are located in the Central Valley. And also the Imperial Regional Detention Facility in Calexico. And so the challenging part is that while our communities on the outside, relatively have some sort of access to vaccines and boosters, that's not the case in immigration detention facilities. We're actually embarking on a really big, we've been embarking on a big advocacy effort to provide, or to at least make accessible or available the boosters inside immigration detention facilities. California, for those that don't know, California was one of the first states in the nation to provide its vaccine supply to immigrants in detention. That's not the case in other facilities across the nation. So really happy that we're a leader in that effort, but we're also, it comes with some frustration because now that the boosters are available and now that the CDC no longer recommends J&J boosters, folks inside detention are requesting for mRNA boosters, and the facilities, who are known for their history of medical neglect and lack of medical attention are not able or not willing to provide mRNA boosters. So we're working with the state, the California Department of Public Health, to ensure that there's booster access in all immigration detention facilities in California. So we do have a meeting with them soon. So we really hope that could that results in something really positive. But what we do know is that it's been sporadic in terms of mRNA boosters that are being provided. So we're working diligently to ensure that folks inside have culturally and linguistically competent information with respect to the vaccine. We're working with medical professionals that are doing this work out in the community, connecting them with folks inside and building that trust, because a lot of the folks inside detention are getting their information from the guards, GEO or core civic guards, or MTC guards that don't wear PPE in the facility, that are not vaccinated. They're actually telling people, why are you getting vaccinated? Why are you getting boosted? Like, they're really discouraging a lot of folks inside the facility. So anyway, yeah, we're still, I think that similarly to Gabby's timeline, I think it looks like between now and June, and then reassessing depending on what happens with funding, but also what happens with booster access and vaccine access. So that's where CCIJ is at right now.
Yeah, it's really helpful to know from the detained neighbors that we support. Sierra, do you want to add anything to that from Freedom for Immigrants perspective?
Sure. Yeah, I'm hearing very similar things from our hotline calls that we're receiving from folks in detention too. Except a lot of our conversations aren't even focused on boosters quite yet, because people haven't even had access to first round of vaccines, and there's a lot of hesitancy. So a lot of our efforts is still focused around combating misinformation and providing information about the vaccines and promoting the vaccine too. So I think we're in the same boat, that we're trying to get this information out and going to continue to reassess. And we also want to make sure it's connected to a policy ask, that a lot of our efforts are connected to policy asks. So we're working with our policy team to make sure this is translated into those efforts as well.
Yeah, because that's thinking going into next year, whether it's for detained, whether it's for marginalized or whatever community, the growth of this will become more advocacy rather than individual information, in my view, right? It's, I guess, as things grow, there's still going to be a significant portion of the population that will not have fair access, and that is going to become an advocacy effort more than an act to be able to provide impact at scale. Carla, maybe just get a voice that's not so California centric. What does it look like in South Dakota? What are your plans for the year, and what challenges are you seeing?
Well, we definitely want to continue hosting pop-up clinics. So we're planning right now on hosting pop-up clinics at alternative shelters. I don't know if that's the right term, or like housing shelters, temporary housing shelters. And we really want to focus on providing pop-up clinics at daycare centers or anywhere where kids might be, so that families have an opportunity to vaccinate their children and themselves. So we really want to focus on having the accessibility of different vaccines available at pop-up clinics as well, so that people have options to choose from. And some of the challenges right now has been the rise in Omicron cases here in South Dakota. So a lot of events have been canceled. We haven't been able to attend anything because a lot of people have been out of work because they've been sick, or people are just holding off on gatherings right now. So most of our efforts have focused on social media messaging or digital messaging as we kind of get over the COVID cases, I guess, right now.
A quick note on the temporary housing shelters. One thing when we met with this funder yesterday that definitely clicked was we talked about testing and said testing is not just a test that's negative. Testing means you can go to a shelter, you can cross a border, and you can actually go to work. That still, to anyone, that's still by and large a fair summarization, correct? Because I know from GRM's perspective, border crossings and showing a negative test, is that the same in temporary housing that you've seen in South Dakota, that negative tests are required for temporary shelters, or is that something more geo-specific?
Yeah, we haven't really seen any of that here, or at least nobody has mentioned it while we've been there with nurses. We usually do hand out tests, and we're trying to make the availability or make tests more available at temporary housing shelters, or even places where you can get free meals as well. So we're working on that, but as far as I know, there aren't really any requirements. South Dakota has been pretty lenient on vaccinations and testing requirements. But we have seen a little bit of a shift towards employers requiring vaccinations, but not so much other places.
Any thoughts from anyone else about why we continue existing outside of, we've covered a lot, and I think that the resolve is strong, but anything else that may have been missed? Because there's so many nuances to the different cultures and areas we support.
If I can I add a couple things?
Please.
I just wanted to say, like, at least for the Humboldt County area, because we're so rural, we've been struggling with a lot of misinformation. We've been struggling a lot with lack of access to resources. And so what is happening right now is we got this big surge in January of people getting COVID and really having to be in quarantine, whether they knew if they had COVID or not. And so just kind of pointing out to the testing part of it, I think it's super important, just because a lot of folks are having to get tested before they go into work. But also many folks are starting to lose their jobs if they're not able to get over the quarantine in about a week or two. Some folks have been in quarantine for a month and a half. And so that's definitely been hard for a lot of folks who depend on their jobs. And so I think what Centro del Pueblo is going to be looking into the next couple months is really just reinforcing a lot of the testing and focusing on finding resources for things such as rent and meals, food, and a lot of hospital bills as well. But it has been definitely hard out here, just with a lot of folks, even if they have been vaccinated, they still have to kind of do a little bit of a quarantine. And so, and if they get positive and then their children get positive and then the whole family gets positive, then that tends to be the biggest issue right now. But I think that's where we're kind of focusing on, really just spreading accurate information and making sure that people are supported while they're quarantined.
Yeah, and that's super helpful, because again, it was really stressing because so many organizations were requesting additional budget for testing kits, masks, etc. That a test that is negative means you can continue working, etc. And for shelters, cross the border to see loved ones. And just so this is my take on it, but we did speak to Darren earlier this morning. Many of you came here through SURF, the California Immigrant Resilience Fund. There were 2 rounds of funds for that. There's no indication there's going to be a 3rd round, meaning that there's not going to be any more, whether it's at the federal level or at the California state level, any more cash bailouts. There might still be some foundations and institutions that provide it, but if you lose your job, and even that was only $500 per undocumented resident of California, it was helpful, but it wasn't that huge. Point being is, I don't see any indication, and I haven't heard of anything unless anyone else has, that there's going to be a 3rd round of SURF funding. So there's the safety net is no longer there. So on that note, upwards and onwards. We still have quite a bit of work ahead. Thank you again for everyone and all your thoughts. If anyone wants access to the survey for your purposes, please check out the link. We can, and feel free to use it how you best see fit. Ditto the impact report. Anywhere other ways we can help, please let us know. We will continue rallying for the funding. We do have 2 more, hopefully maybe 3 by end of this month, that will be able to fund this organization through this coalition through this year. And Jamal, Posey, did I miss anything else or any?
Okay.
So thank you for everyone, for everything you do. Stay strong, be well, mask up yourselves, because if we get sick, which it's been a struggle on the Mobile Pathways team, I don't think we've had a single week. All of us have been healthy. Actually, this might be the first week since the year began.
Don't jinx it.
Sorry.
Thanks, Bart.
A day
Thanks,
and a half
everyone.
left in the week. Thank you, everybody.